I'm Barbara Michalowska, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and I'm here this evening to present to the board the new family engagement framework that has been put out by California Department of Education and California Comprehensive Center at WestEd. It's been a 5-year journey for these two organizations, but they have worked to publish back in 2011, just a year ago, the Family Engagement Framework. So I'd like to spend a little time this evening talking about it and making you aware of the great things that are inside this framework. This is the actual framework that was sent to us. They're very stingy as far as going through copies. We tried to get additional copies, but the state's not printing them, so we had to print them ourselves, which is fine. I'm excited to present this tonight because our boards throughout the history of Central School District have always been very strong supporters of parent involvement. If you may remember, for some of you that have been on the board a long, long time, you supported, or our board members supported, the birth of the first volunteer aid coordinator position in our district. We had one at each of our schools. Back in the early 80s is when we came up with that position. And that position still exists today in a different format, but today we call them Parent Community Involvement Coordinators. So all this time we've had those positions that were delegated to bring parents in and involvement in our schools. So as we visit the Family Engagement Framework this evening, you will notice that parent involvement has evolved over time. And this is due to what we've learned through research about what parent involvement can do for our kids and their learning. So what is family engagement? This is the definition of family engagement that is used throughout the framework. Family engagement is communicating and doing things with your student's teacher, or your student's school to support your student's learning and success. The Family Engagement Framework brings together research, promising practices, and program requirements to plan and implement, and to evaluate family engagement practices that directly impact our student achievement. In Central School District, we have always appreciated our parents who faithfully assist us with school events such as our harvest festivals, our book fairs, our movie nights, and the like. And that is what we commonly think of when we think of parent involvement. This type of involvement is pretty easy to orchestrate and oftentimes is initiated by our parents. But the parent involvement that we're going to talk about tonight in the Family Engagement Framework is focused in on the greatest impact of things we can do as parents and with our parents that have an emphasis on improving our student achievement. So you may wonder, why do we have a Family Engagement Framework, or why do we need one? First of all, because we know research says family engagement has great impact on student achievement. The Family Engagement Framework replaces the old, and I don't know if you remember these, the parent involvement standards, which are more of a surface level standard of how we involve parents. This parent involvement, as we know, is critical to the expectations of our child being successful. So the framework describes the expectations and the implementation strategies for integrated family engagement. It provides guidance to our educators, to our districts, to our schools, to our families and communities as we begin to plan these family engagement plans for each of our school sites. We need this information because we as a district want to put our time and resources into the very best practices. We don't want to spin our wheels doing things that don't have that impact on kids. So that is why this framework is going to be a huge resource tool for us. Framework will help us to be able to do that. So what does the Family Engagement Framework look like? Well, inside the framework, there are 18 what they call district principles within 5 action areas. Those 5 action areas are build capacity, demonstrate leadership, resources, fiscal and other, monitor progress, access, and equity. These 18 district principles are the specific actions that districts are required to take to meet what's outlined in the framework. And although the framework provides ideas as to how districts can meet these requirements, there's lots of ideas, lots of strategies and help, but it is really up to the individual district to design the plans that best meet their family involvement goals. Within the framework, there are 3 progressive levels of implementation for each district principle. And remember, those district principles are the actions that we have to follow and we have to take. There is the basic implementation level, there is the progressive implementation level, and the innovative. Basic is required of all districts, but those districts that are forward-thinking and want to move more into the family involvement, can look at those progressive and innovative levels of implementation. There is also, in the framework, tools for communication for parents and for families. These communication tools are very parent-friendly. They include school-initiated activities and parent-initiated activities at the district level, the school level, and the home level. There's also a matrix of the federal and state parent involvement requirements, because these requirements are tied to regulations that we have to follow. There is also a review of the literature in the framework, and the review of the literature is a great resource for districts and parents because it summarizes the research that has helped to define and develop this framework. There is also a table, the table that addresses parent involvement activities associated with student achievement. This table clearly identifies specific strategies associated with student achievement that parents can partake in. Strategies and related articles such as interactive homework, two-way communication, parent education, parent involvement in school committees, and high parent expectations are just a few of the items that are spelled out on this table. And of course, there is an annotated list of related articles and also an area of references. Let's take a look at what it looks like, what that rubric looks like inside of the framework. The overarching area is building capacity. This is an example of the district required activities and implementation rubric. Building capacity, as this again said, is the action area, and 1.03 is that district principle that we're required to implement. So if we look at the far right column, the district principle is that we have to provide training and resources to parents on content standards, academic achievement standards, just overall academic achievement of the students, parent involvement requirements, how we monitor academic progress, and how to work with teachers in these areas. So if all districts are required to do the basic implementation, we are required as a district to provide this training to our advisory committees. And in particular, we have advisory committees in our district like School Site Council, DLAC, we have the Gate Advisory Committee, the Health Advisory Committee, and several other parent organizations. Of course, in Central, we don't stop at the basic level. We move right on into the progressive and innovative implementation level. So we have provided these to these advisory groups, but also in addition, we have provided this to many families and parents throughout our district. Several of our schools are already offering training at parent meetings, and you'll hear about some of them tonight from our PTI coordinators with parent meetings and with workshops that they're offering at their school sites. And in the innovative implementation, it talks about utilizing the internet to survey parents and provide information training to facilitate their participation in decision making. Last spring, we did survey our parents, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but also too, this year we are committed at our parent conference time to gathering additional emails from our parents who are interested in being contacted and communicated with via email. So what does research say about parent involvement? Why has it become so important, and why has it evolved? Well, there are lots of good things that are being found out about parent involvement. As mentioned earlier, that the framework is based on recent research regarding the impact of parent involvement and on student achievement. There are some key research points that will guide us as we begin to develop our plans. And in particular, if we read the first one, we know that parent expectation and aspirations for their children's academic success is the number one with the greatest impact on their student success. A parent doesn't even have to set foot on a campus if they have expectations and aspirations that their kids will succeed academically in school. That will have more impact on their student success than anything else we think that parents can do. But not all parents know how to do that. So our role as a district is to provide training and workshops to help our parents to be able to set those expectations and know what are highly appropriate expectations. These high expectations, assisted by greater parent-student communication and the students' control over their own studies. When parents have high expectations of their students, students have high expectations of themselves, and the parents and students talk about these expectations. So you can see that kids become more alert and more in tune with their own academic success. Students whose Parents receive information and training on how to help their children at home, show greater levels of student achievement. All parents have an innate want and desire to help their children at home, but we as educators can help give them some of the tricks of the trade or those specific strategies that we know have greater impact. And when we provide our parents with that information and those tricks and that training, they can do a better job of supporting their kids at home. And home-based parent involvement activities are found to be most strongly correlated to classroom competencies, including children's motivation to learn, their attention, their task persistence, their receptive vocabulary, and low conduct problems. Basically what we're saying is when families are involved and there's family activities going on at home that support what kids are learning in school, kids do better at school. And these are things like performing science experiments in your kitchen, or playing educationally enriching games with your children, checking out books of interest that support the content that they're learning, collecting and researching things like rocks or leaves or maps. All of those types of home-based activities support student learning and make learning more important for children. More research continued. We again providing the education enriching activities, which we just kind of touched on, but also we have found through research that schools who struggle with unsatisfactory achievement in the area of their students would benefit most from focusing in on parent involvement efforts on building parenting capacity and encouraging learning at home. As you remember, building parenting capacity is one of the 5 action areas, and it is the one area that will assist schools most who are struggling with unsatisfactory achievement. We are fortunate in Central School District that we have a lot of parent involvement, and we are not struggling academically with our kids to achieve. But it's great to know that schools who are, this research can help them to get on the right track and move forward. So specifically, it involves those schools establishing parental involvement practices, recruiting parents to help and support students, training parents to participate in curricular and budgetary decisions, integrating community services to strengthen school programs, training parents and staff on how to establish effective partnerships, and having the tools to help their students with their homework. Also, number 4, parents, I'm sorry, let me go back to number 3. Parent expectations, again, we've said that so many times I'm not going to repeat it. But number 4, parents who learn the language of school and learning can better assist their children to attend and engage in learning, which leads to increased achievement. All of us in the audience who are in the education business, we know the lingo we use on a daily basis, the catchphrases, the terms we use, but oftentimes our parents don't always understand what these terms mean. So we have a responsibility to educate them about the language of school and the language of learning. We need to help our parents know what does it mean when we say your child's proficient? What does it mean when we say your child's below basic? What does it mean when we talk about your English language learner is early intermediate? What is an LEA? What are Common Core standards? These are buzzwords that we use every day because we know them inside and out, but we have a responsibility to help our parents understand what these are. So when they come home and the child tells mom or dad, I scored proficient on my test, the parent has a very strong understanding of exactly what that means. And of course, for those students who do need intervention, the most effective interventions are those where the parents and the school work together and communicate back and forth. So what is our charge? What is our priority? It is to help parents hold high aspirations and expectations for their children. And as schools, we need to work in partnership with the parents to make their expectations appropriately high and challenging for their children. And then, of course, most importantly, we need to work with the partnership of the children and the home so that we can meet and surpass these expectations. So with continued support from our board, our site administrators, our teachers, our classified folks, our parents, and our community, we can make this happen. So as we go forward to begin to develop our plans for each of our school sites, here's some things we want to keep in mind, and you'll see it again. Number 1 impact on student achievement is their parents' aspirations and expectations. We need to help our parents to know how to do that. We need to help our parents know how to communicate that to our kids. If you're a parent and you have never been to college or a university, you might not know how to hold those expectations appropriately to help your children. We also know that general communication and interest in home and schoolwork, assistance with homework, and discussing progress has a moderate impact on student achievement. And moderate is not a bad word. If it has a positive impact on students' achievement, then we want to continue to do those things. We want to continue to talk about school, and we want to continue to talk with people who work at school. We want to show interest in homework. That does have an impact. Parental home supervision, such as rules about watching television, providing home surroundings conducive to do schoolwork, and simply checking homework, has the weakest impact. But it still has a positive impact. But those are all the things that we commonly tell our parents. Make sure you provide a quiet place to do homework. Make sure they have the resources they need to do their homework. And even though the impact is moderate, it still is positive. And lastly, consequences for poor grades has a negative impact on student achievement. And sometimes as parents or as educators, we think we're doing the right thing. If they don't reach their potential, we think a consequence is appropriate. But research is saying that that has the opposite effect. So when we begin to create our plans, we want our plans, first of all, to focus on those strategies that will have the greatest impact on our students' learning. We want our plans to promote two-way communication. We want our plans to promote valuable training for parents and staff. We want our plans to educate others about the language of school and learning. We want our plans to address the 5 action areas and 18 district principles. And we want our plans to be a resource for parents, staff, and community. Good news, we're on the way. We're on our way of doing these kinds of things. In the spring, we did survey our parent leaders regarding several aspects of our district, including parent involvement. The information we received back is very valuable and very helpful, and will help us as a guide as we develop our family engagement plans. We are aligning our parent involvement strategic plan goals with the feedback we got from the surveys, as well as with the family engagement framework. We are currently educating school administrators and parent community involvement coordinators about the family engagement framework. In fact, we spent an entire Ad Council morning working with our administrators, and we did the same with our PCIs as well. Several of our schools already have put into place parent workshops that talk about and help parents to understand what are content standards, what is student achievement, how do we monitor it, what does that word proficient or below basic mean. So a lot of those things are in place at many of our schools. Also, our 2 Title I schools, Central and Bear Gulch, will be partnering with the Parent Institute for Quality Education, which we call it PICA, to provide parent training. And we're going to have them talk about that in just a minute, because this is a very exciting program. So what's our next steps? We're on the way, but we've got room to grow and to finish. So we're going to continue to embrace and educate all of our stakeholders about the family engagement framework. We're going to continue annually to align our strategic plan parent involvement goals with the framework and survey feedback. We're going to continue to work with schools and parent groups to develop the parent involvement plans. We're going to provide parent workshops that promote student achievement, and we're going to evaluate the impact of our efforts, adjust, and refine our plans. So we've got a lot of work to do, but it's exciting work.